Oh.
It's great, great.
We've got real riders there. And see ya. Goodbye. Boom.
Chris Hemsworth is back with the sequel to Extraction, and while, if you've seen the first Extraction film, you know that there is a ton of not only gruesome scenes, but coordination and precise planning involved when it came to the fight scenes.
You've got 70 to 100 stunt people, you've got 200 background performers all moving and fighting, and you have to break it down so that you could have small achievable bits. We shot that over the course of, I think, 3 nights, because each one of those sequences takes time, especially the part with the fire, because we have to be safe.
Today we'll be taking you behind the scenes of how Chris Hemsworth had to prepare for the new fight sequences and the new set.
The unique thing about Chris is that he's a massive guy, but he's super coordinated and super physical. Day in, day out, Chris trained to be able to do the fights himself, and it allows us to do longer takes where normally you're hiding a stunt double.
It's the hardest thing I've ever been involved in.
But before we get into more of these moments, some trivia for you. What was the initial first film going to be titled? Leave your guesses in the comments down below and stick around to the end of the video to find out if your answer was correct.
The wind up on top of that, we measured it was 30 knots, which is very strong. So we had to build that set, like replicate this big glass building on a set. And we built it outside because we wanted the natural light. So we had to build it high enough that we could get cameras and cranes underneath. So we had, at times, Chris and Gulshifta up 15, 20 feet in the air to get the shots. It was all real, meaning it was real glass, real steel, but we had, blue screens below us so that we could safely have the actors out there and they wouldn't blow away in that Vienna wind.
And with a film like this, or with as much action as there was with the first film, there's going to be more tougher scenes, and when it comes to action and high stakes, the sequel is looking to kick the action up another notch with even more explosions, car chases, motorcycle crashes, and brawls. There's even a scene where a helicopter lands on top of a moving train. The director of this film, Sam Hargrave, isn't a stranger to Hemsworth or putting together these wild stunts, since he has worked on projects like Thor Ragnarok and Avengers Infinity War.
The way to execute that was, with blue screen to keep it safe for Chris, and then when that explosion happens and the car starts to tip, we had a hydraulic lift on the car, so it starts to tip on the blue screen, and then during that motion, we stitch to practical location, practical stunt driver actually flipping the car over.
I was standing on the side of the set watching this, and he got out, shook it off. Thumbs up. And
the recent sequel picks up after the character's close brush with death at the end of the first film, and sees him try to save a family. And there are a ton of stunts that they did for this film.
Day 1 of shooting, Extraction 2, we're back.
With a title of 2 behind your name, you have to bring at least twice the action.
We get a deep dive into what the cast had to do to train for this film, including military training.
We wanted the audience to feel what it's like in real time to go on this extraction with Tyler Rake. We've got fist fights, we got people on fire, we got car chases, helicopters.
Chris Hemsworth firing big guns, it's unbelievable.
And with the intensity that there is with this kind of film, there is an extensive amount of preparation and outside-of-the-box thinking when there are injuries within the story. How do you follow afterwards? Or what other moves do you make if, say, you injure your hand and can't pull the trigger to a gun?
Chris stays very fit and sharp mentally, but what we tried to do with Extraction 2, we both sat down and said, how do we give people what they want, but push ourselves and push the fans to just new heights of excitement and entertainment. He wanted to, again, do as much as possible. That took a lot of training because the fights were a little more intricate, a little more complicated than the first movie.
And to really get some of these scenes to be realistic as possible, they brought in people in the military to ask the personal questions of what it was like being shot and how they actually reacted and how it affected their body.
You've got moving trains, you've got lead actors on moving trains, you've got real helicopters. and you have to photograph that in a way that fits the style of our movie, which is generally handheld and very up close and personal. So we had different configurations of the train. We'd block it out and say, all right, we're shooting this way because of the sun or for whatever reason. So it was just a puzzle.
And we can't go without talking about the 21-minute long action sequence, where they talk about the overall premise of that, and the helicopter landing on the train was actually real, choreographed and pre-planned very well for safety, but it was real.
There's a moment on the train when they're fighting where the train was on a gimbal for this moment, and it shuffled, to one side. Everybody stumbled, both stunt performers, Chris, and the camera operator. But rather than saying like, something went south, it wasn't supposed to happen, everyone just kept fighting.
But real quick, make sure you guys check out our Instagram page, linked down in the description. There's a ton of interview moments and memes, so make sure you check it out and give us a follow.
It's broken up into a number of different locations because we had exterior train work that we started with, and then when we would go inside the train, some of that stuff was on stage, which was months later.
And we get a deeper dive into this and how they had to navigate the camera.
Now I'm moving backwards, shimmying so I can get a close-up of Chris, and then start to push the camera out of the car.
I see the camera's been handed out the window there.
So I'm reaching inside, I pull it out, I have to grab it, so now I'm operating with my arms crossed. But I kept the car in frame for the crash.
It's amazing that nobody got hurt filming this, especially during the helicopter scene. Given it was real, the blades were just 15 feet away from Chris.
And this time around, it was even more intense. This movie, exhilarating, it was nerve-wracking with huge amounts of action. It's been quite a journey.
And with all the action and car chases and cameras and stunts that happened on the set, you'd think that there was this huge budget. But believe it or not, the first film had only a budget of $65 million.
Landing the helicopter took us 5 times. The take that was actually in the movie, I believe, is take 3. Because by the time we got to the end, the pilot was so good, he was landing it so perfectly that it looked fake. So we wanted to make sure there was movement so people would realize it was actually real.
Now the second film's budget hasn't been released yet, but we can assume that there was probably about double the amount considering the director said double the action.
So this was shot many weeks, maybe months later. The continuity has to be so spot on, like his hair has to be the same, the costume has to be the same, the blood, all this stuff has to be, because it's from an instant in the movie, but a month apart in time. It's mind-blowing movie magic.
And as far as the answer to our trivia question, for this particular movie, Netflix wasn't quite sure what to use at first. Initially, the title was Dhaka to reflect the name of the city in which events take place. Since this might have ended up being confusing to some audiences, the title was then changed to Out of the Fire. This sounded too similar to the Denzel Washington movie Man on Fire, which also has a similar premise. It was thus concluded that the title would be Extraction.
But he's firing blanks, he got a real helicopter. These missiles are digitally added, but we did have special effects doing some explosions at the back to mimic that.
Now it becomes a CG takeover into the explosion. We couldn't afford to crash 53 helicopters in the ground.
And with the excitement surrounding this film, just with Chris Hemsworth and how many times he has said that even though it was a challenge at some points, Netflix did greenlight another sequel.
I have this sort of, not quite love-hate, but appreciation for it, and also pure exhaustion when I do stunts like this. The stakes are so much higher, the risk is higher, but the reward is off the charts.
Chris Hemsworth has confirmed that a third Extraction film is in the works, and not that it is a possibility or not, but the director said that he would love to see Rake and John Wick face off.
Real helicopter, landing on a train, and none of those guys are harnessed in.
There's 5 stunt performers and para-rescues hopping off of this helicopter.
If one of them falls off the edge at this point, they're dead. This is a pretty risky sequence.
I want to see that go down, and I would love to be in the pub with you and your buddies and talk about it. It's 2 epic action stars going at it. That'd be amazing, he said.
There's a moment when you say to yourself, it can't be done. But instead of backing down, you push yourself forward into the unknown.
But we wanted to turn this around to you guys. What did you think about all these moments? Have you seen this film yet? And what are your expectations for another sequel on the horizon? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on for more videos just like this. That's it for today though. We'll see you all next time with a brand new video.
I'm very proud of what we've done. The end result is gonna blow people's minds.
Against all odds, you find a way to make the impossible